I'm sitting on Canoe Bay on the Alaska Peninsula at Jeremy Davis's camp, Canoe Bay Outfitters, and I've been trying to get better about doing gear lists on the different trips that I'm on. And I'm going to roll through another gear list right now, much like I did earlier this year. Again, I like to start from my underwear and work my way up, and on this trip I wore boxer briefs from a company called Stio. I think they're out of Colorado. It's a skiing company, but they make a few merino pieces, and I use their merino boxers. They're super comfortable, wicked moisture away from my skin really, really well, and for the most part I never even really knew that they were there in either feel or smell. So I think they did their job really nicely. I'll definitely probably pick up some more Steel underwear. As always, every pair of socks that I own and every pair of socks that I used on this trip were darn tough. Made in Vermont, lifetime guarantee. I'm sure I'll try other socks in the future, but for the meantime, darn tough are pretty well the best socks that I've ever used, and they'll ship you a brand new pair of socks if you wear a hole in it. I continue to wear my -33 merino wool. This is a crew neck piece. I think that's called crew neck or maybe turtleneck, whatever. For how much I've worn it, it's held up really, really well. But I'm starting to get a couple little snags in it. I think I even talked about that in the last gear list. I'll still continue to use this stuff for a while. Like for instance, right here is a little hole in it. I probably just caught it on a stick while going through the alders, hunting caribou, moose, brown bears, whatever. But it's really good underwear, and it's held its elasticity, and it is not shrunk like a lot of other long underwear that I've purchased over the years that has been merino. This stuff has lasted since Winds of Adak, which was something like 4 or 5 years ago. I bought this stuff at Barney's. Right now, my favorite hunting pant, or it's been my favorite hunting pant for the last several years, are these pants from Fjallraven, the Keb trousers. And there's a Keb Pro, a Vita Pro, but these are the Keb trousers or the Keb Gator. I really like both of those pants. They have just enough elasticity in them for stepping up and climbing. On this trip, I was going through head-high salmon berries, which is basically like a raspberry with a slightly more mild thorn than a raspberry. And these things held up really good. I love them. I'll continue to wear them. Per usual, I wear Fjallraven's Lotta sweater basically everywhere I go. I love this piece. It's warm. It's warm when it's wet, and it was wet a lot on this trip. Not from rain, but from sweat. For the most part, I was hunting caribou in what looks like Dall sheep country. So there's a lot of sweat, a lot of backpacking, and a lot of physical effort. And then when I'd get back to camp, I would take it off and I would hang it over my tripod to dry it in the wind a little bit. And then I would put this sweater on. This is an Ovic knit sweater from Fjallraven. And I just use this and these cool pants. I think these are cool rider pants or something along those lines. I just use them as kind of camp clothes to get out of my sweaty stuff, let it start to dry. But before I would go to bed, I'd put my sweaty and wet stuff back on. I know it sounds terrible, but I'd crawl in my sleeping bag, and that is a sure way to dry your clothes overnight, or at least get it really trending in the direction of being dry. Beyond that, one of the most important elements that I bring on every trip is I always bring a down jacket, down pants, down kind of pullover sweater, down mittens. And the best down that I have used thus far for hunting is the Kuiu, whatever they call it, Super Pro down or something along those lines. I'm terrible with all of these companies' names. This down it's resilient, it's strong, it's really tear resistant, and it's really warm. I oftentimes wear it to bed if it's going to be a tricky night. I also have the Glammet mittens. I don't have them right here in this gear list because I forgot them up at the cabin, but I bring those because they pack down so small. And then I bring these Hestras that I bought at Barney's a few years ago. There's an insulating mitt inside and then a waterproof mitt. So if I am glassing for hours on end and my Glammets from Kuiu are wet, and I want to just keep glassing for brown bears, caribou, whatever it may be. Oh, there's a seal watching us do this. That's pretty cool. If I just want to wear these in the wind and continue to glass, it really makes a huge difference. And these are the best, hands down, the best mittens that I have found for kind of rainy, nasty, windy weather where you really want to keep the glasses to your face. On this trip, I brought a pair of wool Filson fingerless gloves. I very often have a pair of fingerless gloves with me, either North Star Bison wool, Filson wool, whatever it may be. These guys were the ones that came along this time. I just think they feel great, they're warm, and it's a great alternative to have something over your whole fingers. I was torn on rain gear because this place is really nasty. The peninsula, if you don't know, I have a beautiful night tonight. There's 2 volcanoes right there that have been exposed maybe 3 or 4 days. I've been here 2 weeks. They've been out 3 or 4 days in the last 2 weeks. They're out tonight, absolutely stunning. So rain gear wasn't as vital on this trip as it generally is on the peninsula, but I brought my Keb, my Eco Keb shell from Fjallraven, which is a great rain jacket. If I was going to be in some serious continued downpours day after day, and I didn't have like a Kafaru or a Seek Outside tarp to get under during dinner, or even when I was just back at camp, I would have brought Grundon's PVC jacket and Grundon's PVC pants. Still, this rain gear is really good, and I use the Fjallraven, I think this is called their Bertigen pair. This is their heavier, more extreme pair of rain pants. They work great. They have, you can even use these snowboarding or skiing, whatever. They're that robust. Also on this trip, I've been wearing these for years. Hanwag Cirrus 2 GTX, basically the best boot I've ever worn in my life. They cinch down really good on my foot. They function really well. They're for the most part waterproof until you go over the top or until you're just completely waterlogged on the trip. And I also, this is a new purchase, don't know anything about them, but I bought them before I came out. It's called a Luso, looks like a Croc, looks like a waffled Croc. I really like it. It's pretty light, comfortable on my foot, doesn't fall off, doesn't clunk around kind of like a Croc, but I really like it. Moving on to camp, I brought way too many knives on this trip, but I was hoping for success. I did have success. I killed a really handsome bull caribou, and I wasn't sure really what conditions I was going to be facing. Jeremy and I had discussed the whens and wheres of how I was going to hunt, and I knew he was basically going to pick me up at Sand Point, fly me over into the mountains, land in some undisclosed location, and I was going to begin my hunt from there with very little information other than knowing that the bulls have their cows up on the tops of the mountains right now, and boy did they ever. They were at the very tippity top when I found them. But I brought 3 knives. I brought a survival type knife that I bring with me very, very often from Benchmade. Unfortunately, I forget the name of this knife, but I love this knife. I split a lot of wood with this knife. I carve a lot of notches for rope with this knife. It's a very, very good knife if you are on the type of trip where you can handle this weight. A pilot is dropping you at the top of the mountain. You're not doing a one-way trip where you're packing everything up every time and moving, but you're coming back to base camp. This is a very, very good knife to have along and can get you out of some sticky situations. And more importantly, people love to talk about sticky situations and dangerous situations, but more importantly, this knife can make you comfortable by helping you start a fire and comfortable by helping you do a little maintenance around camp. I also brought along my meat crafter for skinning the caribou and breaking the quarters off the animal itself. And I brought along a flyway, which they primarily sell as a trout grouse knife, but it's still really messy. But I used it to basically break down my entire caribou outside of using my meat crafter. It's a really good knife. It's almost like a little scalpel. I also brought a hatchet along. Again, just the unknown, and because we were going to have a base camp type hunt, I brought it along my Grand Fours Brook hatchet. This thing is awesome, timeless piece. This is something you're going to buy and hand down to your kids. I have the hatchet, the axe, the maul. I have every piece that these guys sell. They're really incredible. I've had this thing for a long time. I love it. As far as light in my camp, I had this Petzl headlamp. It's rechargeable. It has a lock on top. It has 5 settings. I absolutely hate it, but I continue to use it because it works pretty well. But sometimes it turns on in my bag. Even though I lock it, it ends up turning on in my bag. and it also has a feature where if you look somebody in the face, it automatically dims, which I actually don't like at all, because if I'm trying to navigate in the pitch black, which happened on this trip a few times, and I'm in the alders or I'm going through the grasses and this light hits the vegetation, or this light hits whoever I'm with's light in the distance, it will dim itself down, which I don't enjoy, but I continue to bring it, so it's got to be pretty good. Petzl makes another headlamp. I have no idea what it's called, but it has a little camouflage band, and it has a red light and a blue light. I really want to switch over to that light, and I went out and tried to find one and buy one before we came on this trip, but I couldn't find one. Maybe they don't make it anymore, I don't know. But I continue to use this guy, which is called the Swift RL. And like I said, it's a really nice headlamp. It just drives me nuts sometimes when I see it turned on in my bag. I also always use Lucy lights. These things are awesome. Solar powered light. It doesn't take that much sunlight to charge it up, and it will run as late into the night as you want to read or whatever before you close your eyes for the night. Really good piece of gear. Emperor geese. This place is my favorite place in the world. Emperor geese flying by right now, and a harbor seal just swam by. You hear him laughing? You probably can't hear him, but it's unbelievable. As far as cooking, I forgot it up at the cabin, but I used an MSR reactor. I love that stove. It heats up water super fast when you're just kind of doing this jet boil type dinners of peak refuel, which is generally what I like to use because they have so much protein in them. Clean canteen is always my water bottle. I always bring, when I'm doing this type of hunt, even if I was doing a one-way kind of loop hunt, I would bring fire starter with me of some sort. This is my fire starter kit. I fire rope in here. I fire tape. I just bought this stuff for the first time ever. Zippo tinder shreds. These things actually worked awesome to start a fire, particularly around here because everything is wet. And so I really like those. That's my fire kit. I also bought these for the first time on this trip. Seek Hydro Pack Seeker 4-liter Hydro Pack. I just liked how compact they were. They roll up really tiny. They go into these little bags. This is the type of hunt that comes with tons of fresh water. Every stream that flows past your camp is the greatest water you're ever going to have in your life. So you can just go down, fill up your water bottle, fill up your pan, fill up your water container, and drink right from the stream. It's absolutely pristine. It's gorgeous. It's wonderful. As far as glass on this trip, spotting scopes are really heavy, but I basically refuse to hunt without one. They make such a difference in aging sheep, such a difference in looking at the size and age of caribou. They make such a difference in trying to pick a route apart on the way there. I have my old Maven B1 binoculars with a Rick Young Bino harness. I just want to go with something a little bit lighter on this trip because I was bringing some other items that were a tiny bit heavier. So a Rick Young Bino harness. I absolutely love this harness. And my old B1 Mavens that I've had forever. And they're still really good. Love them, and literally see objectives, I stick them right down on the sand and rocks. They can take it. My Maven spotting scope, this is the S1, I believe, S1A curved eyepiece. I like the curved eyepiece because it allows me to find animals a little bit quicker, and it allows me to I can hide by altering it and looking around corners or looking over hills, whatever it may be. I have it on a Gitzo carbon fiber tripod. Camp was really important to me on this hunt because there can be no mistakes in this country. It's really wet, it's really windy, it's a pretty dangerous place to come and hunt, and so I wanted things to be dialed. And so my two tents that I used on this trip were the Hilleberg Nalo GT, and then I used Hilleberg, I think it's called an Alac, I think something along those lines. I had a 2-person and then a 3-person for gear, things like that. Those tents are amazing. They're built really well. They set up pretty dang easy, and once you have them set up, they are pretty bomb-proof. I also used MSR's Cyclone stakes. I like to use those. I think the next time I come and do a trip like this, I might bring some smaller stakes And the cyclones are pretty long, pretty heavy, so I might bring some smaller stakes just to kind of go maybe every other or every third, something like that, just to reduce the weight, but so be it. Also on this hunt, this is my favorite backpack I've ever used. The Barney's, I think he calls it the Pinnacle. I've used this pack a bunch. This pack is going to leave my possession on this hunt though. One of the young men in camp, one of the young guides, a kid named Hunter, he broke his non-Barney's pack in half the other day carrying some caribou out, and brown bear season starts, or their brown bear hunters come in on October 5th, which is in 2 days. And so I'm going to leave him my pack so that he can use it throughout brown bear season. So this leaves my possession today, but you can't go wrong with a Barney's pack. It's awesome and really strong, really great to organize your gear in, lots of side pockets, really great to haul meat in. There's a meat shelf built inside. You can also construct a meat shelf by removing the bag. The external frame, which is so very old school, which I love, also adds tremendous rigidity to the pack and really makes it much more efficient to move a load up mountains, which I had to do on this hunt. I killed my bull way back in the mountains, probably 2.5, 3.5 miles from camp, and down a vertical 1,000 to 1,500 feet. He was way down in the bottom, so I had to butcher him down there and carry pieces of him up, carry half of him up and then the other half up. And 1,000 vertical feet doesn't sound like a lot. It was very physical to get him out of there, and a Barney's pack essentially makes it possible. I'm not saying you couldn't do it with another pack, of course you could, but the Barney's really works as a freight pack and really moves stuff. On this trip, I brought a Wiggy's bag for the first time ever. I've never used one before. They come highly recommended to me by several guys that I really appreciate their opinion. It's a really safe bag to use in these conditions. It's filled with lamellite. It handles moisture extremely well. Even when you crawl in it soaking wet, you will notice that the outside of your bag is wet in the morning because it is wicking the sweat and wicking the moisture off your clothes, off your body, through the bag while you sleep at night. If I have a critique, I would say this is the 0 degree level of bag, and it was chilly for me in the temperatures that we were facing at 1,500 and 2,000 feet. It was chilly at night, and so I would wear a little bit of my down in the sleeping bag at night, not that big a deal. Once I put on one little single layer of down, toasty warm. The other complaint that I have about the Wiggies is when you mummy up, when you actually close it in around you, it closes in a lot more clunky than a true down bag, than a true down mummy bag. And in doing that, you just maybe have a few other pockets that kind of stick out. But that being said, fantastic bag, 100% recommend it. Lifesaver in this part of the country, this part of Alaska, with it being so wet and so windy. All the pilots that I fly with, they keep these in their airplanes 100% of the time, just in case there's an accident or just in case they get caught in a tricky situation. Last but not least, and probably the most important piece of gear on this trip, is I shot my caribou with True Velocity 6.8 TVC, and to my knowledge, this might be the first animal taken with this round and with this caliber, and it performed flawlessly. When I pulled the trigger, the caribou didn't take another step, didn't wiggle, didn't kick. The round absolutely crushed him, and yeah, it's really remarkable. It makes me really proud to be part of something so revolutionary. Ammunition hasn't changed much in 150 years, both in manufacturing and performance. Brass can only be extruded in a circle, and so cartridges and guns have kind of taken the shape of what 150 years of engineering have been, and it's been a remarkable one. But these guys went back to the drawing board and have totally changed what is going to be possible with both ammunition and firearms in the future. And to be on the front side of that in such a raw and big, beautiful place like the Alaska Peninsula, it's just been an honor. And yeah, I feel like I'm living part of history. And so it's getting really dark. Sun is finally going down. It's a little after 8 p.m. So we're gonna wrap this up. But this is my gear list. If you have any questions, Since it's kind of incomplete, feel free to message me, and I hope this information helps.